I'm Zita.
I'm Jarrod.
Welcome to our home. Come on in. Yes, so when we bought our first property together, that was in Reigate, we've done so much research and we looked at the location and the type of house and so on, obviously our budget. And then we moved a few more times. How many times did we move? I think 4 times.
We've moved 4 times since we've been in this area, which some people think is crazy.
Yeah, definitely. Some of our friends thought we were mad.
Yes, but each time we did move into a larger property with a bigger garden, more bedrooms. We generally renovated the property we were in, then we sold it for a significant profit and then moved into the next one. And we did that a series, and we're in our final house hopefully. So it was actually a new build property when we bought it, so we didn't have to do any renovation to it, which was quite refreshing. But there's pros and cons to different approaches. But I think, what are the things do you need to consider when you're looking for a home?
Yeah, so I think looking at our situation, we've done well. We look back and we are thinking, you know what, we don't regret moving that many times. We built up equity in our home. And we're finally in the house, which is ticking almost all boxes.
Yes.
I guess you always compromise on something, but it was fine for us, looking back. But I think we could have been a bit more brave. I think we were a little bit conservative when we bought our first house together here.
Yeah.
Yes, we bought a 3-bed semi.
Yeah.
So we're thinking about longer term, but really we should have considered more, maybe different area and be a bit more brave, spend a little bit more.
Yes.
Just because of gaining more, I think we could have gained a bit more equity.
Yeah, the property we bought for our second home, we probably could have, which was a bigger property with a bigger garden, more bedrooms, etc. We could have maybe bought that first.
Yes.
As our first home.
I agree.
And kind of like jump that first initial starter home step.
Yes.
But at that point in time we didn't have children, so you make those decisions at the time. But
I think we were cautious as well. I think we were very cautious. We knew that we were moving out from London. Our train costs were quite significant.
Yes.
And so we were quite cautious and careful with our budgets, which I think is not a bad thing. And I would never encourage my clients to max it out, pay so much more. But I think you need to weigh up, because I do speak to people who want to have, just a smaller flat, just a 2-bedroom, and they're not thinking about longer term, not thinking of, we will start a family, we need another bedroom, or move straight away closer to a good school, catchment, and so on. And so if you move too soon, you have costs attached to that, stamp duty, costs. So you have to be really careful, I think, when you're choosing the first home, that it will be actually a suitable home for longer term.
Yeah, we always evaluate from a mortgage perspective. We look at their current circumstances, and then we look at what their future circumstances could be. And I think you need to take that approach when you're looking for a property. What you're looking at, you might be looking at a 2-bedroom flat. That might be perfectly adequate for your needs now, but is that going to be, are you going to start a family and you quickly outgrow that property? Can you afford to buy a bigger property now? Because if you want to move in 2 years, well, you're going to have to pay stamp duty, you have further legal costs, survey costs,
agent costs,
estate agency costs, because you're selling the property you're buying. So, you need to really think about the future and what that, is that going to be a good long-term proposition for you?
Yeah, definitely. So I think this is the first thing when people start viewing properties, set that budget, realistic budget, so by that time you knew what you can afford, and choose wisely in terms of that home. You want that home to be suitable for longer term.
Yes.
So that's one thing to consider, but also I think the quality of the house is quite important, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, definitely. You know, if it's a standard brick and tile, you know, property, you know, most mortgage lenders are more than happy to lend on that property. But we do come across, you know, properties like, you know, reinforced concrete properties, things like that. Difficult to get a mortgage on, difficult to sell. So they're going to have limited capital appreciation. So sometimes the type of property is quite important as well. I think you've always got to consider, if I was going to sell this property, would it be easy to sell? Would it be easy to get a mortgage on? Would it have a lot of interest in the market? If you buy something that is maybe a bit more limited in appeal, whether that could be area, property type, how it's constructed, you know, that can be a real challenge, and it's probably not a really good property to buy.
Yes, and I think I know it's very much budget driven, but leasehold versus freehold, you know, if your budget stretch to a freehold, or if you have to maybe move out just a little bit more from that preferred area, but you can buy a freehold instead of leasehold, is definitely something to consider. Freehold is not going to be that, you know, there's no lease.
Yes.
You don't need to consider what if the lease will reduces. There's no service charge, no ground rent. Neighbors, you might have one neighbor if it's a semi-detached, or maybe two neighbors if it's a terraced house, but not like a flat where you have all angles, neighbors, restrictions. Can you have a dog or a cat?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, in a freehold you do what you want to do, but in a leasehold you can't. So I think that's quite important to look at your budget and see, can it stretch to can it stretch to buying a freehold?
Yeah, freehold is definitely more preferable, but there's still nothing wrong with leasehold, you know, flats. You know, a lot of people buy them, and if that's suitable for your budget and your circumstances, that's absolutely fine. But yes, you know, sometimes just looking at your preferred area, sometimes looking just outside that preferred area can get you a bigger property, you know,
Yes.
more bedrooms, bigger garden. And it may be worthwhile to look at that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the quality, sometimes people think, oh, I buy a house which is, you know, run down and all that, and I will do it up, and it all sounds really good. But I mean, we bought a house. Before this house, we actually straight away had to redo the kitchen, bathroom.
Yes, straight away.
That was quite a big upheaval, wasn't it? And it cost,
Particularly when you got children, and also, you know, you've got to live through that kind of renovation, which is challenging, and also it's costly.
It
you know.
is.
If you're going to buy a property that needs quite a bit of work, you really need to get some you know, builders quotes or renovation quotes,
Yeah.
and at least 3 or 4 of them, just so you have a really good understanding of how much that is
Yeah.
actually going to cost.
Definitely.
Because generally the rule is it costs a lot more than you think, and it will take more time.
Definitely. So I think, you know, there's nothing wrong with
No.
buying something. And I think it's quite, I like doing the work to the house, a previous house, and do it up how we wanted to do it up. But when it came to that decision of doing, you know, extensions and all that, that was actually, we realized that wasn't for us. And the cost was just crazy. So
Well, the cost was, it was through COVID, wasn't it? And the cost was astronomical to renovate your property or extend it at that time, because
yes.
everyone was bored in COVID and looking at their houses and wanting to extend it or make it bigger and things like that. So the costs were very, very high, and that's what drove us to actually look for another property that had everything done. That's why we ended up settling on a new build property, because pretty much had everything we wanted to do on the last property, you know.
Yes.
So from an economics point of view, it made sense
Definitely.
as well. But also from the upheaval, there was a lot of upheaval for the family.
Definitely, and I think new build, I think it was a breath of fresh air to move in here, experiencing, you know, a house where we needed to do a lot of work. But then, of course, both has pros and cons, and some people.
Well, you can add a lot of value if you buy a property that needs quite a lot of work and it's in a good area. You can add a lot of value.
Yes,
You know.
definitely.
So.
And I think the last thing I would say a couple of things I would mention to people who are ready to view properties. Ask a lot of questions from the estate agents. I think one mistake people make, they love the house, they fall in love with the house, they make an offer without actually finding out much about the seller's circumstances. You know, are they buying, are they moving, why they are selling, what's their plans, asking about the bills, what's the running costs of the property. I think a lot of people don't even ask that question. So
No. Also, one thing I would also add is don't ever be rushed by an estate agent when you're looking around a property. And always go for a second viewing and say to the estate agent you want to spend a lot more time in the property, you want to look at the boiler, everything like that.
open the taps, flush
Yes,
the toilet.
yes, all of those things. Also, you know, things like you might want to check, you know, when the sunlight hits the garden, you know. Yeah, are you going to get a lot of sunlight in that garden? Is it a south-facing garden, or is it going to be just, you're not going to get much sun at all? Things like that are quite important. Maybe you want to go visit the property and walk around the area at 11 o'clock on a Friday night or a Saturday night. See how, you know, potentially busy it is. See if there's kind of, you know, any behaviour, you know, you're not really happy with. I think it's good to have that kind of contrast because, you know, when you view a property during the day, it's going to be quiet, people are at work. You've got to live there day and night, so
Yes, definitely. Look at it day and night. See who your neighbours are.
Yeah.
Who live on that road. And
If you got a family, check out the local schools. You know, look at, you know, social media groups, Facebook groups, things like that.
definitely.
All of that's quite important to get a bit more of a feel for the area.
Yes, I agree. And I think if you do your research properly, you ask the right questions, and honestly, all you need to do is just have a pros and the cons column as well, and then see, you know, what's very important for you, what you can compromise on, what is a deal breaker, and then it will be much easier to decide on that.
There will always be compromises.
Always.
No matter what your budget is, there will always be a compromise.
Absolutely, 100%.
There will always be a compromise.
Definitely, 100%.